Welcome to Mind Over Marketing, the show where we break down the marketing, sales, and mindsets that separate the winners from the wannabes. The host, Todd Starr, has been on the front lines of business, sales, and marketing for himself and for his clients for the last 10 years. Todd says, "I believe that success in business isn't about doing more, it's about seeing differently." So today, we're getting inside the mind of somebody who truly thinks differently. They've built a successful business, but more importantly, they've had to outthink, outsell, and outmarket their competition to get to where they are. And we can all learn from their wins, but more importantly, from their failures to make our businesses better.
So Alli, thanks for joining me. Start with telling people who don't know you who you are and what problem you solve.
Thanks for having me, Todd. My name is Alli. I'm the founder of Shenanigans. So Shenanigans is a board game all based on how to invest in shares. So we take the key concepts of investing and have gamified it, made it fun, made it something that children want to play and enjoy playing, but parents see the educational value. The problem that started many years ago when I didn't know anything about investing myself and realized it's because it didn't come up in my household and it didn't come up in the classroom. So all of a sudden I thought, I don't have what it takes, I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge to start investing, and started talking to people around me and realized it's a real problem that a lot of people face. So with Shenanigans, our goal is to spark more conversation in households just through a fun and interactive game that gets children curious, but also pushes the parents to learn a little bit more if it's never something that they were taught growing up.
Yeah, really good answer. You've said that a lot of times.
It always comes out with different words, but...
Yeah, that's great. Really well done. I remember when we spoke a couple of months ago now, and you were talking about sort of how you came up with the idea. And I mean, just for people who don't understand can you hear that noise, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it is. I don't know where that's coming from. It seems to have gone now.
Yeah, I can't hear it anymore.
Let me see how I can pick that up. So I remember we were talking a few months ago about sort of what's been involved in actually bringing this to market. For people who don't know, like, you've made a board game, but like, talk to me about all the things people wouldn't know that you had to go through, right? Testing and creating, and how you created the first kind of concept of the game and manufacturing and getting into stores and the scale, and like just walk through like some of the hidden things that people just wouldn't even consider work that you've done to make this happen.
Yeah. I mean, the first big one is that I always thought in the early phases that Shenanigans was going to be an app. Stuck in the world of tech and thought, we've always got to be looking for the next tech solutions. So yeah, started trying to do this app, which was basically trying to solve my very first problem, which was the lack of knowledge around investing. We've now realized that we're trying to break that down even further to a lack of conversation. But yeah, so started with an app after about 6 months of trying to do something. I just did not have the tech skills or the resources to kind of make it happen, and I got in a bit of a lull where I thought maybe this is just going to be a university project and wouldn't go any further. Yeah. But so my background is I've been a facilitator in high schools for about 5 years. During that time, I got to talk to parents and teachers, and they kind of got me on the right track of doing a physical product, which is now the board game. So that was a big first turning moment of when you pivot early on, just by listening to your customers. I had parents that were telling me, good luck getting my kid off TikTok and onto an app about investing. And I thought, yeah, I'd be the exact same. So then when I committed to doing a board game, it became a lot easier. I went and purchased a Monopoly board, funnily enough, and covered it in paper and just started trying to create a game. Basically, the day I decided to do a board game, I was already trialing with people. Through about 1.5 years of game testing and my very first mentor and his business partner, they came on board, who own a marketing and design agency. They were able to create the branding that we see of Shenanigans today. And once we got all the play testing and the designs and everything, then it was that manufacturing piece. So decided to take manufacturing over and do it in China. Hard to get a New Zealand manufacturer that does everything in one game, especially all the elements in Shenanigans. So once we found the manufacturer, and that was done just by reaching out to other board game designers in New Zealand and seeing what they use, and they were all very open and honest with who manufactures their games. So we then, got in the process of manufacturing. And then I suppose, long story short, needed the money to start manufacturing. So that's when we did the Pledge Me campaign. So crowdfunding, we needed pre-orders, and we sold spots on the board to New Zealand businesses as a bit of like a marketing thing, but also just to support a new business starting out. And we raised about $48,000 in just over 3 weeks to be able to begin manufacturing. I also got the chance to go over to Shanghai and meet with my manufacturers, which was absolutely amazing. And from there, got our products. We received about just under 2,000 board games at the end of last year, just before Christmas. That was a stressful time. And now we're in the warehouse across New Zealand and about to sign on with an online distributor just to test the Australian market, and then hopefully looking at what our overseas options look like now that we've kind of got our retail stores locked in for New Zealand.
I mean, there's a lot we could unpack there, but just fundamentally, the way you think is rare. I work with lots of entrepreneurs and lots of business owners, so I understand, what your mindset must be like, but where does that come from, that sort of entrepreneurial drive, or that most people would sort of stick with the app and, or they would quit at that point? Like, where does that come from? Maybe in the way you grew up, or your sort of authority figures around you. Like, how did you learn how to think this way?
Yeah, good question. I've actually always said, I was that kid in primary school. If you asked me what my dream job was, I would have said to be a business owner. Did I know exactly what that meant? No. But my mum had her own small accounting practice, and I remember so vividly that she would be going to get coffees in the middle of the day, and she would be there when I wasn't at school, whereas my dad, he would leave at, say, 7 a.m. and get back at 6 p.m. And I remember asking, side story, so I lost my mum when I was 7, so it's those little things have really stuck with me. But I remember asking my dad, what does mum do? And he said she owns a business. And I thought, wow, that's the way to be able to have coffees with friends. Now thinking back, I realized she was having coffees with clients and having to drag me along because she was also an amazing mother. But it was that stuck with me. And then I remember asking, like, how do you become rich? And he's like, well, to be fair, it's the business owners. And I was like, now this sounds perfect. And I was probably 8 when we had that conversation and would talk about business. And so my very first thing of business was in primary school. I would rent out my Heeley shoes. So I was like one of the first to jump on the trend with Heelys, which are shoes with wheels in the bottom of them. And everyone wanted them. So I started charging between $2 and $5. $5 if they wanted them for the week. And people at school would rent out my Heelys. And I remember my reading logbook became Who Has My Shoes logbook. And I would have been probably 10 at the time. And that's just continued. In high school, I imported products, sold products on Trade Me, just jumping on trends. So I think I've been lucky in the fact that it's almost been the only option. And I've found other passions and stuff that I'd love to go off and do, but I've always known and been driven to start a business. So when I went to uni and studied entrepreneurship and innovation, there was that pressure to start a business, but I also fell in love with the world of finance and how it's such a big problem that we don't actually know about it as a country especially. And so it all kind of went together,
That's so amazing.
But
No, that's amazing. And your mum would be very proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I feel like, I was born in 1990, and the concept of entrepreneurship, even thinking back to when I was younger doing similar stuff, we had I guess I was willing to take risk, others weren't. So that's, I didn't have Heelys as assets, but I was less risk averse than others. Where we lived in Cornwall in the UK, especially in the summer, there was a corner shop outside of the school, and the school we went to, if you were getting on a bus, you weren't supposed to leave the school grounds, so you could get on the bus and then that would take you out and drop you off. And then I started to recognize that lots of people were hot on the bus, and in summer I would sneak through the school fence, run across to the corner shop, buy a load of ice poles, kind of frozen ice things, and then sell them on the bus. And then and I never got caught for that. And I don't actually know where.
I asked you that because that's actually happened at a high school recently in New Zealand. I saw the similar story, but they got shut down by the tuck shop.
Yeah. So I think It never went to like mass scale. But it did get to the point where after a while word spread, and then it was not just my bus, it was several other buses, and I would take orders throughout the day. So I would get people to prepay. So I'd have some people on other buses that would give me like 20, 30 pounds, and then they were maybe 50 cents a piece. So then I'd buy a bunch of bags, and then they would get them, and they'd make their own margins for whatever they could sell them for. So that was kind of my first thing. And we did little bits of, I remember my grandmother at the time worked for a aged care facility, and she had like a special card that you could go and buy like bulk stuff. I don't know what it is here. There's a company where like restaurants buy like bulk chewing gums and things like that. And so I'd take the money from the ice poles and go with her and buy like big boxes of crisps and different snacks and polos and mints and stuff, and then sell those. But yeah, I think there wasn't like, see, I was doing that from a perspective of like, I was breaking the rules to do that, right? So to follow any entrepreneurial drive I had to be willing to like risk my freedom, not get punished. It was not incentivized to think like that. And I'm dyslexic, so school was not good for me anyway. And there was just no avenue, right? So then but I think I'd have loved to have an opportunity to study entrepreneurship. Like my brain is absolutely wired for that. So I think that's amazing that you had that sort of upbringing and that freedom to create and try things, and then also find an academic route where you could really solidify that knowledge.
Yeah, I think definitely, like, I think back to probably how my dad parented as well compared to other parents. He was very much whatever I wanted to do. He had obviously set rules, but when it came to getting grades, there was this trust thing where I would work hard, and I was very competitive in whether that was sport, and that was probably more him pushing me in sport, but that also then came across to the classroom. But he was never setting, I suppose, boundaries for me. And he'd back no matter what crazy idea for business I came up with or whatever it was. So I think I always got in the mindset of you may as well try something. But he would have the biggest mentality, and he would tell me almost every single day, anytime I said I'm too scared, which was feel the fear and do it anyway. And now it's like a cringy quote to say, but I truly live by it. Like, you start pushing yourself outside the box, and then, or challenging yourself, and then challenges become smaller and smaller, and all of a sudden you're doing crazy stuff that you never thought you'd be doing. But yeah, it all started, I think, when I was very young and was always in a supportive environment. So for that, like, so grateful. And it definitely, yeah, has shaped how I probably think today.
You're going to be an awesome mum then, because you're going to take that and then roll with that with your own family, and like they're going to be like,
or either have that opinion or a very opposite opinion.
I think like there's two things there. Like there's the fear of failure, or like or is it even a failure if you fail? And I think things are cemented as a failure if you quit at them, and that's fine. That's actually fine. Like there are business things I've attempted to do, and I have, by all definitions, failed and quit them. But that was the right decision, right? So it's not, I think, trying to say don't have a fear of failure and nothing's a failure and just keep trying and trying. Like, you can be delusional and be pushing in the wrong direction and just keep on going, and there isn't actually an outcome you're looking for. So I think knowing when to quit and when to actually accept defeat on something is just as valuable. But I think it needs to just be less stigmatized that makes you a bad person, or that makes you stupid if you've decided to change direction, or you failed at something. Most people won't even try anything.
Well, yeah, I always say, I reckon now one of my biggest failures is looking back and realizing I never even tried.
Yeah.
And I'll run in workshops that I still do in university or high school. I'll run failure CVs, where you have to build a CV like you would for a normal CV, but you put down all your fails. And some people come away and they're like, wow, I actually haven't tried enough new things. Whereas some people, they'll fill it with all sorts. Tried surfing, bad at surfing. Like, it could be things as simple as that. Or tried to start a business and it failed. But at least you can say, oh, I tried to start a business. It didn't work, but, have you tried? Like, it's all those things. I always say I'd rather say that, like, I tried to become an astronaut. And, like, that would be the coolest thing to have. Is they're like, yeah, I tried to become a NASA astronaut, but I failed.
Yeah, 100%. So in terms of like marketing, obviously you've got good experience with this now, and you've done lots of media, and you're way more experienced than most small business owners are, in my opinion, from conversations we've had. For a small business owner watching this that has some money or some budget allocated, and they're thinking about doing some marketing, maybe for the first time, or they finally got back to the point where they want to try again. For you, like if I was to gift you 20 grand right now and it was risk free, so you could do anything you wanted, you don't have to see an immediate return. If you lose it, you lose it. What would you use that money for sort of a typical startup business or someone in the first few years of their venture, regardless of industry? Like what would you be looking to do with that money?
Really good question, to be fair. So if we're just talking about marketing,
Yeah. You want to get customers, right? You need your brand. You need some brand awareness. You want to get some leads. You want to try and get some sales, and you want to get your brand out there and try and get some opportunities. And you've got 20K and a few months to do it.
this is probably where I bring in my disclaimer of my 2 shareholders own a marketing agency, so I would be going straight to them would be the first thing that I would do.
That's an answer, right? Get help.
Get help, 100% get help. I think there's always value in having what I've discovered is that whether it's social media, anything like that, having one more person just to help with filming, help with content, and help with consistency and ideas can sometimes be the most valuable thing. That's if we're talking about social media and almost on an organic scale. If you're really wanting to build a community from organic sale, then I do see value in hiring a part-time person to help with that. If we're talking about paid ads, one, I would say before you spend $1, you need to understand your target market so well. And I truly believe that you should get as specific as you possibly can in those early stages. I think if you can launch a product to a very small niche to start and they absolutely love your product, then you can build from that. Rather trying to build a product or market to everyone, one, you spread it too thin, but also it's never going to be perfect for everyone. So before you spend $1, do your research and really, really narrow that down of who you're targeting. That's when you can look at those paid ads, whether you're creating high quality video content or it's just putting money behind some of those more organic, authentic, founder-led content as well. From our experience, we did do a billboard campaign, which can be quite expensive, and it did really well in a brand building presence. That's one of those things, though, that you can't see immediate return. You're not going to know if it's click-through. You're not going to be able to see, I suppose, the conversion rate. So for us, we had so many people saying that we've seen, like, people tell me I'm haunting them because everywhere they look is another billboard of Shenanigans. And that was great brand presence. We had followers being like, I just can't drive anywhere without seeing Shenanigans. So depending, I sometimes recommend digital billboards. But yeah, definitely, I always say if you can, early phase, try build brand presence organically as cheaply as possible. And for us, we went and we did lots of free PR. So got on the radio, got on 7 Sharp, into newspapers if that meets your demographic of who you're trying to target. But maybe it's you can also buy ads and all of that realm as well, if that's where you go, if you can't quite get your story to where they want it to be for that kind of free media, I suppose.
Yeah.
What would you do?
It's good advice, and I think people miss a trick when they say like demographics in traditional media. Like certainly for any industry really, but it's not that if you go in a newspaper, just because that's technically going probably to an older demographic, but they have mouths and family members and they talk to those people. So it's like if you're going to go in those types of, that's probably a stronger way to position your brand.
Yeah.
Because if I'm getting referred something from my dad, I'm going to look at it.
100%. It's also a credibility piece for us. Like we went on News Talk ZB. Probably not going to find if we were, when we are targeting parents, but if we were targeting 25-year-olds, they might not be listening. But for us, it's that credibility piece of, well, it must be real because that's on a well-known radio.
Yeah, that's something that traditional media does better than any digital media. Like anyone can get on your phone right now with an ad for like 5 cents. So, and people know that now, right? They know it's cheap. They know there's loads of them. So it's very easy to ignore those. But what will happen if you're on TV, you're in media, you're in a newspaper, like you hold that space in the reader's mind. So you might not have the metrics to manage or analyze, but, and you might not be able to be super targeted with demographic, but whoever is reading it, you have that space in their mind and it's exclusive. No one else can have that page. So it's like there is something in that in like a 30-page magazine. It's like if you're one of the 30, like no one else can be there in that particular publication. So it also, the second thing it does is signifies deep belief in your product and service, because it's expensive to be there. So if you've spent thousands of dollars to be on a billboard campaign, like clearly that's a serious venture for you. It's not a Facebook ad that you're just playing around with an idea for a game. You've invested serious money, you've designed something, it's there for a long time. So, that's two things you can't really get with digital ads, especially with AI, and how good images can be created and how like flimsy marketing campaigns can be, because it's really difficult to know. And then I think there's a stigma that like people's attention spans are shrinking. So there's a natural bias now for small business owners to try and go short with everything. Quick clips and Mr. Beast style edits and like everything short and everything. But what you're doing is like alienating the people who are genuinely interested. I don't believe that we're reducing our attention span and developing ADHD and TikTok brain and all this. I just think we're getting better at screening the shit we don't care about. So, because my son will get my phone and scroll through a bunch of stuff, and then a Fortnite video will pop up. He's got perfect attention span because he's interested in it. He'll watch 45 minutes of it uninterrupted and not take his phone off the screen. And then when that's finished, scroll. So it's not an attention thing, because he can absolutely binge watch stuff he cares about. It's like we're just getting hypersensitive to the things we don't care about. So I think if you're timely and relevant with your message and well positioned and the production quality is good and the problem that you're solving and how to get that in front of the right people, like people will watch a long episode. People will spend time listening to you. So if you're over engineering everything to try and be short and quick and clickbaity, like you're probably missing a lot of opportunities. Yeah. Don't know where I'm going with that.
No, I 100% agree. I also just think I believe that if you're putting money behind one form of media, then put money behind as many different ones as you can. It's always, you want someone seeing you at least 3 times before they'll even consider making a purchase. So
Yeah,
just
do it.
all the money at one thing.
Yeah.
Across everything, do it.
Sure. Yeah. And I think forget who it was, but there's a guy who talks about a concept, Dunbar's numbers it's called. And it's basically a principle of like 7, 11, 4. So 7 hours, 11 interactions in 4 different locations. Once that has occurred between 2 people, that's when a human being starts to create a bond. So, if you look at that through the eyes of like, I want to buy a car or I want to buy a house, it's kind of like, you don't just go on Trade Me and just pick a random house and then just send the money. Like you go to open homes, you watch the videos online, you talk to the agent, you go to a few viewings, you bring a friend, you download the pictures, you talk to your mortgage advisor, you rack up this time, right? So in terms of like, what we're doing right now is building up that time, right? We had a Zoom call a few months ago for an hour. We'll do this now for an hour. I'll come down to Christchurch and we'll have a lunch, and then we'll talk on LinkedIn a bit. And over time, you just get more familiar with that person. And then you like them and trust them and you help each other and you recommend ideas to each other. And I think people don't recognize that if you don't have enough content online, where if somebody wanted to, they could just binge watch 7 hours worth of content, then you're just missing a free opportunity to develop relationships without having to meet for coffee every 10 times a week.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. One of the other questions I had for you was, so much of marketing and sales is about sort of unconscious transactions, like people buying emotions or status or security rather than just a product. So when people buy Sharenanigans, are they buying a board game or are they buying an outcome?
We have always believed that the product we're putting out, it's built on a purpose and it's not just a board game. As I said earlier, is that children play for fun, but parents, they are purchasing because they see the educational value. Some might just be buying a game to distract their kids, sure. But yeah, we've always known that there's value there for the children. It's to be that conversation, sparker, curiosity creator. We see it breaking intergenerational knowledge gaps and bringing different generations together also to learn something that can be quite taboo. What I didn't actually, and to be fair, it also breaks down these barriers of who you have to be and what it takes to invest. What I didn't expect that people would be purchasing for, which is a lot of parents, they're purchasing because they almost, and this is coming from parents that I've talked to, they almost have this when it comes to talking about finances with their kids because they don't feel like they know enough. And so they've actually purchased Shenanigans as a way to be that starter of conversation, but also then when the children are the drivers of asking questions and wanting to know more. We've had parents now challenge themselves and push themselves to learn more about the share market and to learn more about different options that are out there. So yeah, I didn't think of it in that aspect, or I didn't know that that was going to be something that just a board game could create.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I think I've just started teaching my son chess, or for about a year we've been playing chess, but he's starting to sort of like learn it properly. And the reason why I want him to learn it, he gets really angry when I get him, and I never let him win. And I don't let him win for a few reasons, because when he has beaten me, he's completely elated. Like, he knows that I don't let him win. So when he wins, he actually beat me, right? He outthought me. I feel like in some ways I'm like a mean dad, but in other ways, I'm setting him up for what the world really is. Like, nobody just feels sorry for you and pity for you and gives you a job you don't really deserve. And you don't get investment for an idea because someone just felt bad for you and just give you the money anyway. Like, you are going to get what you negotiate, not what you deserve. And you all know that firsthand, right? Nobody gave you any handouts. You had to do the work, right? This was hard. And I feel like if your parents brought you up where they didn't encourage that entrepreneurial spirit, and they didn't make you think and outthink things, and then you just wouldn't have that foundational mindset that you have that's made this work for you. And I think he is 9, so 7 and 9, two sons. And Louis, the chess guy, and I think the other thing is it teaches him absolute accountability. So just like when he wins, he knows he actually won. When he loses, there is no excuses. You cannot have an excuse. You made the wrong move. And if we go back through the game, you'll see where that move happened. You have to be completely accountable with the fact that you didn't see that your queen was exposed. And you have to deal with that, right? And that's like, it teaches complete accountability. And like, I feel like that is a really, really good trait for kids to have, that like, no one is coming to save you, right? My mum died 5 years ago from cancer, and I'm not sure how, but you said you lost your mum when you were younger, and like, yeah, so no one is coming to just knock on the door and go, here's $1 million in your dream business, enjoy. Like, you are going to have to make things happen. And I feel like the quicker you can learn those fundamental lessons as a kid, the more accelerated your learning will be than other kids, you know, and they're all the kids you're going to compete with for work, for study opportunities, for internships, for mentors, for business opportunities, for money, like all the resources that you're going to want and need, you're going to be competing with those other people. So I think it's good that what you're doing is fostering a culture of family involvement, so that parents are, engaged in that in some way. And yes, they're learning too, but it's all right for the kids to fail investing on a board game. You're not gonna lose your house if you do that. It's pretty good to get that out of the way now, right? And be accountable to long-term strategy and risk mitigation and all the things that they'll learn. And it's fun, right?
Yeah, another really big thing that we hear time and time again is how amazed parents are at the understanding their kids have around finance and around money. We recommend 9+ for the game, but we've had 7, 8-year-olds play and they understand it. I was just in a primary school with year 1s to 4s, and year 3, so 7 years old, I think, we make money. And he put his hand up and he said, well, it could be from interest in your savings account, or it could be by buying a portion of someone's company, which is called a share, or it could be working, like being a lawyer or a doctor. And he had just finished reading Barefoot Kids, which is an investor book, Barefoot Investor, but the kid version. And he soaked in every single bit of knowledge, better than I probably would have it. And yeah, so we also get just a lot of, I suppose, parents realizing what their children are capable in the financial sense.
Yeah, it's exciting to see that change happening. And like, obviously your parents were in business, or your mum was in business, and so they knew those things, right? And my dad was a builder, stonemason, so worked for himself, and my brother's a property developer in the UK. So I kind of grew up around entrepreneurism and that you can work for yourself, and that wasn't a foreign concept. And then my sons are just soaking up the type of conversations we're having, and they understand that the money that you can make in your life is directly proportionate to the problem you can solve. So it's kind of like, they see opportunities all the time, and I know they're there, and I don't tell them about it, and they'll go, Why doesn't somebody do that? Because then this type of person could pay them to fix that and they wouldn't have to do it. And it's like brilliant, right? So I think it's the fun element that you're attaching here makes it like, I know money was tight when I was growing up, and we had a near perfect childhood in every area apart from money. My parents worked hard and we had the odd holiday here and there, but there was not loads of cash floating around, but they loved us and they listened to us and they cared for us. But money, always as a topic, just had a stigma in me that was like, it was stressful. Anything to do with money is stressful. This is what all the arguments are about. We can't have these things because of a deficit of money. So the whole concept of money, and then you've got all these proverbs from teachers and stuff, that money's the root of all evil and tax the rich and it's all the elite's problem and money makes the world go round, and all these proverbs that are just like actually make you like resistant to want to pursue that, because you almost feel like you're going to be a bad person then if you pursue wanting to make money. But a game like this really puts you in a position where there's family, there's a community, there's learning, there's fun, there's failure, and it's around the table where there's no judgment, and it's just enjoyment and laughing and bonding together in direct relationship to money, which is like really cool.
Absolutely.
Well done.
No.
I'll cut this little bit out, but I've got one more question. Where is it? Didn't ask any of these questions. Oh yeah, here we go. So people repeat the same mistakes in business because they're maybe stuck on a script that they don't even know they're reading from. But what would you say is like a sort of repetitive mindset or script that you used to follow, or that your friends follow, that you teared up and no longer follow, and that you think others should stop believing?
Probably a big one is the getting permission for things. And I'm lucky that probably from more my parents' side, I didn't have the strict parents that I needed to get permission from. But I'm meaning when you go through primary school, when you go through high school, when you go through uni, everything is about ticking a box, getting permission, making sure that whoever's above you, and with that, normally whoever's older is giving you the sign of approval. So when I then got into this, and obviously same with jobs, all my jobs from high school up until after uni, you are having to go to a boss, or every step you are making sure it's okay. So then going full-time on my own business, or whether that's Shenanigans or contracting with workshops, I was always looking for someone to be like, is this okay? Can I do this? Can I go speak at this event? And that often fell back on my shareholders. So I've got 3 amazing shareholders, all older than me. And so I still had that feeling of I needed to be asking for permission. Even with the smallest things like sending an email that I thought was quite important, I would want them to sign it off, to check it off. And it was causing a real big, I suppose, like backlog of actually just getting stuff done, or just doing it. If it didn't work out, then well, I'm not going to do it the same next time. So one of my shareholders actually had to be like, Alli, you're the boss. We don't care. You make the call. If it doesn't go well, oh well, it's not the end of the world. They're still my advisors for big things and big strategy, but I no longer feel the need to ask for permission to do everyday things that are in my business.
Yeah, that's really good. It's good that you got to that point. I think we spoke last time about transactional analysis. Did we discuss that?
Yes.
Sort of like a psychological principle that you've got 3 ego states, and like to directly map onto that for anyone watching this that can get practical advice. Like if you were told as a kid not to talk to strangers, that was wise advice to a vulnerable child, not to talk to strangers, right? You can get kidnapped, whatever. If you still believe that, if you don't unlearn that behavior when you get older, at 35 years old now, if I'm nervous to talk to strangers, I'm going to be pretty shit at networking. Like I'm not going to get very good at sales. If I have a threat response and a fear response walking into a networking event to talk to someone I don't know, I'm going to be like, palms are sweaty, like heart racing, and it's a rational fear, right? And that is like how the brain works. So you've got to like recognize the things that hold you back, right? Needing permission or whatever. And those things like can completely set you free instantly. You talked about fear earlier, and I was reading, do you know Alex Hormozy?
No.
He's like a sort of businessy guru dude that's got some books out, but his wife Layla did a post that really resonated with me, and it was when you're afraid of something, your fear you feel is an ocean. And if you step into that fear, very quickly you realize it's a puddle. But it's the getting over that fear to step into it, to realize actually, what was I worried about, right? And kids do that all the time. There's drops slides and tire swings and things, and you'll see some kids nervous to do it. And once they've done it, it's like, that was awesome, I'm going to keep doing it. And it's like, we forget those things as a kid, right? As an adult, you forget the times where you were nervous to jump into a river. And then once you did it, you kept doing it and that fear went away. It's like, so I feel like if there was any takeaway from all of that, it's like, what I'm hearing you say is to take advice and listen to your mentors, but you don't need permission to just try something, and you don't have to fear failing. Just try and learn and soak up information and back yourself, because no one else can come and do it for you.
Yeah. And it's just, I see a lot of people around me, we get stuck in that same mindset. You could say that it's the same with finishing uni. Everyone around me, my lecturers, friends, whatever, it's that push to get into corporate. And I felt like I almost needed someone to be like, it's okay, you are allowed to go start a business. And I did get a job after uni, and I lasted all of about 6 months. And then I went, nah, I'm doing it. But yeah, and it was my boss of that job that said, Alli, you need to commit to this. Go do it. And so once again, it was like I was waiting for permission. So I've really tried to step away from that and just give things a go, 100%.
Well done. Thanks for coming on. I feel like you will inspire a lot of people. You've got lots of cool stuff ahead of you.
Thank you.
And yeah, I feel like you've created something really good. You've solved the problem, and you're a treasure trove of information. And I'll say this again, you should definitely have a podcast.
I have been thinking about that ever since we had our first call.
Good.
This might be when I need to bite the bullet and start it.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit before we started about Riverside. You hadn't come across that. So
yeah, this is all new to me. It's very cool.
yeah, it's basically like, obviously people just do like a Zoom or a Google Meet. And from my knowledge, it basically just records the stream. So, and that will be low resolution. And as your internet and your bitrate and things are speeding up and slowing down, the quality will go up and down, and you'll be talking over each other, and it will make it difficult to edit. You'll just get that one file. But what Riverside does is it's basically recording. I don't know what you can see on your side, but on my side, I can see it uploading. Can you see the purple thing?
Yes.
So it's basically recording natively from your camera on your device. So it's recording at the full kind of resolution that the camera that you're using can record at, rather than the stream, and it's uploading it in real time. So at the end of this, I'll click one button and it will download the full resolution from your phone or your laptop, which will be 4K or 2K, and mine at 4K, and it will have all the audio from our devices, and it will switch between the cameras. So if the AI is recognizing me nodding, it might have us both on screen. And then if I'm not moving too much, it will just go close up on just you full screen. So it will switch it basically automatically. There's also now a feature in here to generate clips. So you press one button and the AI will watch it. It will it will read the transcript of what we spoke about, and it will decide on the bits that are likely to resonate the most with people, and it will cut them out and give it to you in different resolutions. So it's like a full sort of remote podcast software, and it's $20 a month, right? So it's like amazing value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it will give you show notes. You can download AI transcript for a blog post. Like, it will do everything. Still not as good as having it done properly. I've also got a camera there because I'm filming a different video at the same time. But yeah, for opening up kind of global opportunities and things like this, where we're not in the same city, it's like, yeah, really good quality. So you should.
Excited to see how it comes out.
And all you have to do is 21 episodes. 99% of people upload 20 episodes and they never upload that 21st. So if you do 21 episodes, you will be top 1% globally as a podcaster. And there is nothing else in the world that you could do to be 1% of anything in the world in like a weekend if you wanted to.
That's true.
So
that is good to know.
Highly recommend.
No.
Cool.
Very fun, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing. And we'll keep in touch.
Eindhoven Marketing, the podcast.